So today on Cinema Activist, we have writer producer Tertius Kapp. Tertius, how are you doing?
I'm doing great. How are you?
Good. And your new film is Gaia. So yeah, thanks for your time. I know you're on a different time zone. Are you calling in from South Africa tonight, this evening?
Yeah, that's Cape Town over there behind you.
Okay, Cape
And
Town.
yeah, so dialing in all the way from Cape Town. It's about 10:30 in the evening here.
Well,
So
again, thanks for your time.
no
So,
problem.
before we jump into Gaia and how where the seeds of the idea, so to speak, came from. I was looking at your background, and I saw you went to university for laser physics, which is a different world, a different side of the brain than creative writing, producing. So when it came time to go to university, were you torn between which side to go to, and how did physics end up winning, and how did you come back to writing?
I was absolutely torn. And I wouldn't even say that one side won or not. I was actually spending about 5 or 6 years trying to figure out how I could combine the two, because I'd been quite strong in maths and physics and that sort of thing. And, there's obvious sort of career advantages to following that direction. But I mean, I'd been writing before that. I'd been writing since high school. I knew that was sort of my first love, and I had to figure out how I was going to do that. And when I actually studied archaeology, and I studied philosophy and languages, and then I decided to give the other side a go as well. So then I went into physics.
Mm-hmm.
Sort of overlapping a little bit. But then a famous South African writer came to teach a master's at the university where I was, Marlene van Niekerk. So she's Booker nominated and all that. And she invited me based on previous publications to join her master's program. And during that, we started doing some theater work, and I just fell in love with it. And I realized I'm just going to figure out how to make this work. This is my thing. But throughout my career as a writer, I've been, drawn towards the hard sciences as well. So, I mean, I'm
Mm-hmm.
currently working on a project that involves, nuclear physics and that sort of thing. So I've always tried to use it as well as a sort of additional added bonus. In the case of Gaia, archaeology was probably the one that actually featured more.
Yeah, I was curious about that. Yeah, I can definitely see the overlap and the interest in science, and kind of the getting into some of the gorier parts of nature, the crazy side of nature. Oh, well, that's really interesting. I myself went to. I struggled. I was the first person from my parents that went to university, and so
Okay.
there was some pressure there. I loved computers. I loved, when I was in grade school, I was drawing comic books. I would make little short films with my friends instead of writing book reports and things like that. But then when it came time to go to college, yeah, I went with computer science and mathematics and got my degree there, and then kind of came back through it through that when I was in college is when like nonlinear editing was really becoming a
Okay.
hot thing, and so I kind of got back into storytelling through editing and through post, kind of that
Okay.
way. So yeah, so I'm similar to you with that struggle. I mean, that sounds like that was an awesome opportunity for you to get into that master's program.
I mean that, yeah, it was definitely a life-changing sort of thing, to be part of the first group of one of definitely South Africa's one of our best novelists, and I was writing prose then, so I wrote a novel which never published or anything, but just the storytelling grabbed me at that point, and the way that it makes you see the world, I think, really pulled me in.
Hmm.
And then I just sort of knew that there was no way for me to go back and working in the lab. I don't know, man. The my jokes weren't funny to those people. So, that was such a big indicator of how my life would be.
Yeah, the logistics side, right? Like very dry.
Mm.
Yeah, I mean, I don't want to pigeonhole everyone. Obviously, there's creatives
No, no,
also.
of course not. In
I know what
fact,
you're
I think,
talking about. Computer programmers, they are a certain type of human being.
yeah, but I think looking back, it was a very naive perception of mine. I think, nowadays, the people that I speak to that work in that field are, you know, super creative and fascinating and everything. So I don't know, there was some emotional involvement from my part as well. I'd have to acknowledge that.
Yeah. Have you some of your contacts, from your past life, let's say, do you ever bring any of them on, or have you had the opportunity for like consultation and stuff like that?
Yeah, a little bit on and off. You know, in part also very close to me. My brother is the electronic engineer who
Okay.
works on the SKA telescope, the biggest radio telescope in the world that they're building in South Africa at the moment. So I'm constantly linked to that world as well. And every now and again I would have a question for him, like, if we do this in this sci-fi script or whatever, what would happen if, that sort of way. So I mean, it's an ongoing discussion even, and I try to cultivate it, like to keep it alive, so that I almost don't get too lost, in terms of what is happening with technology as well.
Yeah.
As I'm sure you probably do as well.
Yeah, of
Um,
course. Yeah, that's great though. That's good that you're keeping those really. It's great you have that brother for
yeah.
sure to bounce ideas off of. That's really cool.
Mm.
Yeah, because research, right, is in authenticity, especially in character moments and stuff like that are so important, right?
Yeah. But I mean, I also find that maybe you can say more about that, but computer science, computer programming is an extremely creative field. You are creating entire worlds of ifs and else ifs, and there's like a strong correspondence there to script writing in a sense as well. If you're going down the logical pathways of what my characters are doing, there's sometimes you feel like I'm actually programming them. Yeah.
Yeah, that's true. Once you get into, because that's why the formula and the 3 act or 5 act structure works, right? Yeah.
Sure.
Yeah, absolutely.
Mm.
So looking through, I guess before getting to that, when you have the kernel of a new idea, and I should say the director of Gaia, Jacko, uh,
Yaku.
Jakku,
Yeah.
produced with you as well. And it looks like, looking through your IMDb, you've worked together on, there was a TV crime series that you worked on for, looked like about 4 years. And then it looks like you're starting on a new, was it a limited drama series for Muir?
Yeah.
Okay. So
Yeah.
it looks,
That means Four Walls. So it was a
okay.
limited series of 5 episodes, all set in a hotel room. Different stories, but the hotel room links the whole concept together. We go way back. We started coincidentally doing theater together about 10 years ago. And I'd written a script that was lying on a shelf, and nobody wanted to produce it. And I went to go live in Poland, and I was teaching there.
My
And
wife,
then,
my co-director's from Poland, Dorota.
yeah, yeah, I saw that. I recognized, recognized the Polish there. And I mean, I loved Poland. Like, I really
Same.
loved it. I lived there for 4 years, lecturing at university. And then they got Yaku, who at that point was already quite a prominent theater director, to direct the script. And without me seeing it, this thing blew up, and it won all the awards all over the country. And they flew me in to come, make a speech and collect my award and stuff like that. And that was also kind of a life-changing thing for me, because then I was firmly back in the creative industry rather than lecturing. And since then, we've done lots of things. We've done an opera, we've done another play, we've done the Spruce, which is the Starlings. It translates as, it's a bit of a sort of an X-Files kind of thing.
Cool.
That was a 13-parter. We did Vier Mure, which is Four Walls, limited series. We did Gaia now. So yeah, I mean, I suppose people sort of associate us with each other in a little bit, in a sense. And we have a bit of a reputation maybe of going like edgy in our local industry, and being a little bit maybe on the periphery, I would say, of the mainstream. And in the case with Gaia, which was our own initiative that we started with Jordi van der Walt, the other producer is also the DP, that came out of that TV series that we did. So we just decided we need to make our own stuff. And we got all the crew together and said if they're prepared to work for reduced rates, we can give them equity in the film, which is an offer that often does not pan out well for people. But in this case, it actually worked out. And then we got to make a little indie film. And yeah, we are just amazed with how well it's doing, selling in territories all over the world and that sort of thing. So
yeah, absolutely. I mean, I'm very impressed. I really enjoyed the film. Like I said, I feel like it's maybe a cousin of Unearth.
absolutely. I was watching Unearth this afternoon, which I enjoyed a lot. Yeah, and definitely there, especially in that second half, I could see
Yeah.
we might have read similar articles and did similar research or books. So
Yeah, I mean, I love it, and I definitely want to dive into the themes of the film and inspirations for you. I'm curious, have you and Yaku, have you worked out sort of a shorthand when you come up with, I guess, where did the kernels of this idea for Gaia come from? How do you, as the writer in this partnership, how do you keep your ideas organized for writers that are listening to this? Kind of walk me through like where this idea came from. At what point did you approach the director, or did the director approach you initially? Kind of walk me through those first steps.
so it was the three of us together, myself, Jaco, and Yori. And I remember literally sitting past midnight on set in an old quarry one night, that sort of setup, and us having a conversation and saying, we've got all the means to actually produce something ourselves if we can get a little bit of budget, because Yori owns a lot of equipment and so forth. And I started then working. We were very much in love with the idea of the binding of Isaac from an early stage, where Isaac is offered and then sacrificed, and then, it turns out that God does not actually want you to sacrifice your children. And to me, that was also a perfect metaphor for the ecological crisis that we are facing in the world, of course. I started doing a lot of reading. I remember there was a guy that I read up about, Pentti Linkola. He's a Finnish deep ecologist who's sort of, he believes that the end of humanity should come sooner rather than later. Like it's a very sort of dark vision.
What's that name again? Let me get that
Pentti Linkola. I actually just Googled him quickly. Pentti
I'll have to add
Linkola.
that in the show notes.
Sure. So, and the Unabomber, I read the Unabomber manifest. I read this guy's manifest. I knew that I have a tendency to insert large monologues at some point in a film, and I knew there was going to be one probably in this.
That was your main man character there in the woods.
Yeah, carrying on. So we kind of combined those ideas with the notion of doing a horror in the cabin in the woods, and instead of going just cabin in the woods and a lot of teenagers are there for a weekend of getting drunk, I was like, let's make it the philosophy, let's make it the character's belief. And the Unabomber really spoke to that sort of idea when I was looking at him and studying all his stuff. And then, of course, linking that up with the ecological crisis, and then knowing that in South Africa, one of the things that we have in our advantage is this magnificent nature that we can shoot in, so that becomes like another character in the film, of course. And also interesting that your opening sequence is quite similar to ours with the drone shot over the river. I was like, what's going on here?
Yeah, right off. So you open with I assume it's a drone shot. Yeah, ours is a drone shot as well. Although I have had some people say, wow, that helicopter opening shot, really cool. And I'm like, all right, I'll take it.
I'll take it. Chopper in.
But yeah, showing like, you're setting up, the vastness of nature and kind of, the power of nature. And then these, very small figures on the boat there on yours, and mine in a boat and then in a truck. But
Yeah.
yeah, definitely introducing, maybe subtly the power of nature,
Mm.
right, and how it dwarfs us little
No, for
ants.
sure. We shot in an area that I had been going to for holidays for my entire life, basically. So every December, I'm in that forest. And it's always been a very magical space to me. It's all, even in the South African imagination, that specific forest is quite special. There's a lot
Hmm.
that's written about it, and it has a sort of primordial quality, and there's things in there that you don't really understand, that mystery that lies beneath.
Oh, that's
I was
interesting.
reading,
So you have a
yeah,
long
stuff like,
history, a long connection with this particular area.
and then you look at, like, I was looking at Overstory by Richard Powers. I was reading The Secret Life of Trees, all these sort of things about science is discovering things about trees now that they never knew, about fungi as well.
Hmm.
In the last 10 years, they've discovered so many new species and like totally unpredicted behaviors and things that just boggles the mind. So, I mean, I went into a deep rabbit hole with fungi.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I hear you.
Yeah.
And the
It was
whole
fun, man.
mycelium and the whole network underground and how they communicate through each other,
Yeah.
and yeah, I mean it's like the internet right beneath our feet, and it's been there forever, and it's so intelligent, and yeah, it's truly fascinating. Like you said, you can easily go down a rabbit hole. It's just
Mm.
um, I don't
I
know.
love
It's
that
it.
question about, what is intelligence actually,
Mm-hmm.
that you touch on. I'm glad you used that word, because what is it? Must it have consciousness? Must it exhibit behavior that reacts to its environment? When is something intelligent? It's like a very nice philosophical question. And if you look at some of the behavior of the fungi, you go, well, if you take all of them together, they're
Mm-hmm.
intelligent.
Absolutely. Yeah, and
Yeah.
they're protecting one another, right? If there's a tree that's dead or dying or diseased in that
Mm.
area, they're communicating to the other trees and stuff like that.
Exactly. Yeah.
It's
I mean,
fascinating.
and that is, of course, then the jump from there to the title Gaia is very obvious. Like the idea that the planet itself is somehow conscious or aware of itself.
Absolutely. And yeah, there's a bit of a war a war going on that
Yeah.
we're in. Okay, so it sounds like yeah, you have a good group of three between yourself, Yaku, Yori, and you're kind of pooling your resources and saying, okay, you have equipment, we have this location. Do you have any logistic hurdles in South Africa as far as locations and things like that? I mean, what were the challenges, as independent filmmakers to film in this area? Did you have you know did you have your own Werner Herzog kind of situations out there, or did you know the area enough that you did
No,
plenty of research and
we had lots of situations. From myself paddling a canoe that had a camera kit on the back that was half the budget of the film, and me going, is this wise? Shouldn't the professional be doing this? Just to the actual that sacrificial tree, the main one where
hmm
Gaia lives, whatever, was about a 15-minute hike down a very steep hill, and everybody fell. It
oh man,
rained, and Yaku almost injured himself. Yori hurt his knee. This was going on while we were shooting midnight. It's
and you're
raining,
carrying equipment up and down
carrying
this hill.
equipment and all that. But the biggest issue was that we were about 10 days in when we had our first lockdown. And so we had to pack everything up and go home. And I stayed behind in the forest for about 4 months while we're trying to arrange to actually come and finish our film.
So you
Um,
stayed there.
yeah.
So was this something like you had to draw straws, or
No, no.
you?
I mean, I didn't stay in the actual little cabin
No,
that we shot in.
right.
We have a family house close by, so I
Oh,
mean,
okay.
I stayed in that area,
Yeah.
which was fantastic. It was almost like the apocalypse as well, because everybody was freaking out. And eventually, people started coming to these little coastal towns just to get out of the cities as well, because it was quite a harsh lockdown for us initially.
Yeah. Did you leave any equipment behind? Were you guarding any equipment that was left behind, or did you all take everything?
I mean, I was guarding a shitload of silicone mushrooms and things like that.
Yeah, okay.
It was in my mom's house there, because we'd made a lot of molds of the actual mushrooms, and all these things. There was no point in taking it back about 500 miles to Cape Town, so I just hung on to them there.
Yeah, they might fall apart. They're probably fragile, right? You'd risk losing many of them.
They're actually not that bad. We took a portable freezer. We took mushrooms out of the forest, froze them, put that freezer in the car, drove back to Cape Town, and then the silicone mold people made the actual molds, and they look so real, like you can't believe it.
Yeah, they look great. They look beautiful.
They're all quite sturdy and resilient, So yeah.
Who did your? Do you remember the effects team off the top of your head? Give them a shout. So, they did a great job.
Shout out to Sulani Simon and Cosmesis, who were the team that were behind our special effects on screen.
Yeah, I mean the fungi were really beautiful. Yeah. And you had so many.
We had so many. And of course, it was a combination of that and VFX. The VFX guys were Motif Studios and Wim van der Merwe, and they also did a fantastic job for us.
Is everyone out of South Africa?
Yeah, we're all mostly based in Cape Town, almost all of us.
Fantastic. Let's put a pause on Gaia for a second. And how is the film industry, if you will, in Cape Town? Or is it well established, or is it kind of up and coming? Are you part of a group of let's say young filmmakers that are?
Thank you.
Yeah.
Not that young, but I'll take it.
We're younger than Scorsese and Spielberg, and
True. As a writer, I'm okay.
Yeah.
So yeah, Cape Town is the go-to destination for international films. So we got a lot of them shooting here. Our crews are famous for the quality of work and affordability. So that has really caused the film industry locally to pick up in a massive way. And we've seen this surge in quality as well over the last, let's say, 10 years or whatever.
Oh, great.
And then, we make a lot of our own films, but that has gone through a bit of a slump thanks to things like COVID and so forth. It used to be a bit more a couple of years ago, but we're still quite active. I mean, there's like a lot of people that I know that full-time work in the film and television industry here. And Joburg is also a major center, Johannesburg, for television and film. It's maybe a bit more television. Cape Town is a bit more film. But yeah, so the thing is that also with our locations, what makes it very attractive as well is you can film almost any kind of location within 100 miles or 150 miles from Cape Town.
Oh, that's awesome. Was this the first project from Film Initiative Africa, or has that been around before Gaia? Cinema Activist is produced by Lions Den Productions, hosted by John C. Lyons, music by Tony Gray. Support the efforts of Lions Den Productions by becoming a patron at patreon.com/Lions Den Productions. Thank you for listening. We'll be back soon.